The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is André and I am your host. I almost said trivia host. I always do that. Because when I do trivia, I have the same sort of intro. But that is not reserved for you, gentle listeners. It's reserved to my trivia nights. Welcome to the show. Big thanks to Uka the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to this show. On today's episode, we are talking with Dave Mullins. Dave is a director, a graphic designer. We have a lot in common. We chatted about that during the interview. He most recently recorded a horror movie, which we talk about towards the end, and he directed before that a TV movie for Swearnet, sort of a backdoor pilot that he's waiting to see if they get picked up on, called Turnbuckles, that features yours truly. So you ever wonder what the experience of directing André Mayette might be like? Just tune in the conversation and you'll find out. Dave's super cool guy. Very excited to chat with him about the film, creativity, how he got to where he was, and all that sort of stuff. So very cool guy, very interesting chat, and one I'm probably not going to let you wait too long to do because like anyone who does these sort of side quest ventures, my life gets busy. Sometimes it's tough to get everything done in the span of the time period required. So I'm recording this really late, getting it together so that it will air at the right time, which will be Easter for Good Friday. So if you are celebratory of that holiday, then happy Easter. If you're just getting a few days off and using that as an excuse, then I hope you enjoy them. And if you don't get any holidays off, well, that sucks. And I hope you can find a job that will allow you to do that. But in the meantime, let's not waste any time because I'm on a tight schedule for this break and before the break starts, rather. And let's get to it. So here's my chat with Dave Mullins.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad.
Nice, good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh man, I'm excited. I got to talk to a few directors, but not one that I know, fairly well or that I worked with personally. So it'd be kind of interesting to have you on the show and chat about your process and all that fun stuff.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, dude. So where are you from originally?
So I was born in Dartmouth here, I moved around a little bit over the years. I spent a few years living in PEI back in the early '90s, and then moved back here for a little bit, and then moved to Cape Breton for a few years, and then moved back here, and I've been here ever since 2000. Is basically when I kind of came in.
Work or?
My dad got transferred. He was working. He used to work for the provincial government, Public Works Canada, federal government actually, and he was sort of like on the team that was getting the Confederation Bridge up and running. Whole up and running.
That's pretty cool.
He was part of it. I'm not sure. He never explained to me what part he had in it or anything like that. But
maybe he had some secret shadowy involvement, like he was like the fixer or something. If something didn't go right or they didn't get the right plans, the guy disappeared. Your dad had a hand
awesome.
in that. Black Ops, Canadian bridge specific, department.
Yeah. And then like I guess like once kind of construction had started, his either job was done or he just decided that he wanted to come back to Halifax. So we moved back here. And then there was around 90, what would it have been, 96? Around 96, if I remember correctly, there's an election around that time, and there was a bunch of changes, in the federal government, and basically both my parents, my mother, who was working for Statistics Canada, I think at the time, or something like that, and they both basically they were like, you know what, we want to change. And my dad was like, I don't really want to do this anymore, kind of thing. So he took a buyout and left the government. And my mother, they were making changes in her department and reducing jobs. So she ended up being in competition with somebody at the same sort of level that she was, and she lost the competition. So basically, she lost her job. So she was like, "Well, I don't have a job anymore." My dad didn't have a job anymore, so they were like, "Let's start our own business." They had owned their own business back when I was, I don't know if it was before I was born or when I was just when I was born. But they had a convenience store, a Green Gables of all things. I don't know if you remember that.
I do actually, vaguely.
That's a long.
That's a deep cut.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
They owned a Green Gables, and then something happened, and they ended up losing the store, or they got bought out, or something like that, and they took regular jobs. So they're like, you know what, we they were like, we enjoyed that time, so let's do that. And I was in high school at the time, so basically just biking to school every day, and I'd bike home, and on the way home I'd stop at the local video store and pick up 3 or 4 VHS to take home with me, and that's pretty much what I would spend my nights doing. I would spend my nights basically just watching movies and drawing. That's pretty much all I ever did. I ignored homework, fuck homework, all that stuff. I was a horrible student. And yeah.
What were you? It's funny because this parallels to our stories. Obviously, you have graphic design training as well, right?
Yeah.
And obviously love of film and all that sort of stuff. So and obviously I watched a lot of movies growing up as well. What were you watching?
At the time I was, I'm an 80s kid, so I grew up starting off with watching whatever my parents watched. Mm-hmm. And my parents are huge action fans. Okay. So like I grew up on the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallones, the Willises, all that stuff, right?
The good stuff.
My parents never really watched a lot of like horror, or like they weren't art film types. You know what I mean?
Not a lot of Fellini mixed in with all the cobras and the red heat.
No. It was always like red heat.
I would love that lifestyle. It's like, okay, tonight we're going to watch True Lies and then 8.5. It's like okay.
Yeah.
Buckle your seats for an emotional roller coaster.
No, none of that. None of that stuff. I will say though, like my mother loved musicals. Still does. And so I grew up on a lot of musicals as well, because basically it was almost like if you sat down with dad, it was crime stories, action movies, that kind of stuff. If you sat down with my mom, it was comedies and musicals for the most part, right?
A nice broad round
and sci-fi.
Cinema,
I mean, I can thank them for my love of Star Trek and Star Wars. That my dad was definitely a big influence in the sort of sci-fi game. I remember having these memories as a kid of him falling asleep watching old episodes of oh my god, I'm blanking. Doctor
Who?
Doctor Who from the 70s on PBS.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So I have like vague memories of him watching that stuff. So I always thought to myself, if my dad was my age, I think he would have been a lot like me, watching those kinds of things. Now, unfortunately I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but no, I know.
Not even the new stuff?
I feel guilty. Even the new, I tried. I really tried. I don't know what. I still can't place why. Because I have lots of friends. Yeah, I have lots of friends who are huge Doctor Who fans, and it just never caught on with me. I'm like love Star Trek, especially the movies. Big fan of the movies.
All of the movies, every Star Trek movie,
Star Trek movie.
Even number one.
I love the motion picture. A lot of people don't like the motion picture. I really enjoy it.
It's been a long time. I probably watched it when I was like, I don't know, 15. It's been a long time. So I did recently watch Wrath of Khan again because my friend got the 4K and it was his birthday, and he wanted to pick the movie. So we watched it, and that movie is probably the best I've ever seen William Shatner in anything. It's been like God, taking a critical look at it as a film fan, aficionado, I guess you'd say. And someone who does acting himself, I suppose. But like Shatner himself is always such a caricature. He actually plays what would a passable real human being in that movie, and he does a really good job at it. Especially all the little nods to him getting old and needing glasses and all that sort of stuff. Like all of that was very. It's funny that like when did that movie come out? In the 80s?
Yeah. Most Picture was 79, so I think that one was like 72 or 82 or 84.
And think about like the storyline there was Shatner's getting old, and that was in 82. That was like 40 years ago. Like it's now he's like almost 90. He must be in his 80s. I mean, he's
like,
up there.
I think he just turned 93.
Jesus Christ.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, you can imagine. I mean, he's it's always funny. I think when I think of William Shatner, I always think of George Takei because he has no love for Shatner.
Oh, they hate each other. Yeah, it's really
they hate each other so much. Yeah. And I'm just like, as much as you can, as much as you may not like William Shatner, he's outliving everybody. For
Christ's sake. Probably just hate, like just pure. He seems like a bitter guy in general. Like a friend of mine, like met him at a con, and he waited all day in line. Like he was the first person in line. He's a magician. He made like a balloon of the Enterprise. He wanted to get a picture of Shatner holding it. And he was the first guy in line. And he walks in. He's like, Mr. Shatner, I'm a huge fan of everything you've ever done. I was just wondering if you could hold this balloon for a picture. And Shatner just looks at him and goes, I'm not holding that. He just like looks up, and then he's like, and then the picture is like Dave holding the balloon, looking so happy, and Shatner's like just deadpan, staring straight ahead, no joy, nothing. Like, and it's like he was pissed, and Dave was number one, like the first person to see him, and there's a line of hundreds, so you're like 1,000, like probably close to 1,000. So you're like, what's the rest of this guy's day gonna look like?
You could tell he obviously did not want to be there.
Oh no,
that kind of thing. I had a friend, my brother-in-law now, actually. He was working in Toronto as an animator for a while, and he went to the con there and got a picture with Nimoy and Shatner at the same time. And I saw this. He showed me the picture, and it's him sort of like they're sitting, and he's kind of got his arms around them, kind of thing. And he said just before they took the picture, he said he just looked. Everybody looked at the camera, and he said "Muzzle tov." Because Nimoy and Shatner are both Jewish, and apparently, after they had taken the picture, Shatner just scoffed. He just went, "For fuck's sakes!" You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like Nimoy was happy to be there. Shatner was just like, "Great, another one."
Like it just seems like pure disdain for the fan base that made you popular. Like,
no,
I get it. Like, I get how, as someone who, like, I'm a fairly social person, but I also don't have a high opinion of people in general. So like I can imagine there's just a sea of humanity that greets you everywhere you go all the time, shouting at you about the show. Probably the thing that you don't want to be remembered for. Like I'd imagine of all the things he did in his life, he never, you know what I mean? Like he probably wanted to win an Oscar or be some big guy. So like the fact that he's well known for like this chintzy Star Trek show, and that's really all that led him on for the rest of it. Like, I mean, obviously grew into something much bigger, but because of his place in it, he just seems like to be full of resentment to everything about it, but it pays his bills and makes him money. So like he just,
you got to get to a point where you just, I think he probably at one point wanted, to not be recognized, for it. And, I think eventually just like, gave in,
Well, you got to think like at what point, like, it's funny as people like his life's probably incredibly good. You could have went anywhere you wanted to go, visit anywhere you wanted to go, pretty much have anything you want to have. I mean, not like a Harrier jet or something, but a nice house, a pool, all the things that would make me happy. And it's like, it's not enough. You need to be known for something. Like it's just this need more, I guess. Is like, I guess as an artist I can appreciate that, but it's like, it's just funny that like there's some people that really don't like I know Alec Guinness really hated McGuinness hated that he was known for Obi-Wan. Like he was much prouder of Bridge of the River Kwai, but like nobody really talked about that. They want to talk about Obi-Wan. It's like I can see how that could make you bitter if you wanted, like, especially if you want to be like a well-respected actor and you're known for a genre thing. But I don't know, as someone who's a fan of genre stuff, I'd be happy to be, in a role like that.
And I think, he kind of comes up, he came up in a time when, it was, I mean, it took you think when did the series end? 63, 66?
Yeah. So
The
there was a
original series, something
gap
like that.
between that and the motion picture, right? It was like 15
Oh
years or
my
something.
God, 79. 79 is when the
Right.
motion picture came out.
Right. So yeah.
And you think, oh man, all that time, and it, you know, 30 years goes by, 20, 25 years or whatever, and it's just like you wake up and all of a sudden you're insanely popular, and you think you've been forgotten,
Yep.
that kind of thing, and but at the same time it's like you did a thing, and you don't necessarily everybody wants to grow as an artist, so of
Yeah.
course he just wanted to move on, and when everybody was just like, no, we want you to stay James C. Kirk forever, and he's like, no, I'm actually going to go over here now, and I'm going to be TJ Hooker. So everybody call me TJ Hooker instead of James C. Kirk.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, no, you're always
The closest he
James
pretty
C.
much
Kirk.
got out of it was like Boston Legal or something, but like,
Pretty much, yeah. Which
yeah.
I heard was a really good show. I mean, I'm a big fan of James Spader as well. So
Yeah, me too.
But
So
I never watched a lot of TV when that show was out. I kind of regret not watching it, but I'm sure I can catch up at some point now.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on 1,000 things, so you could get it the click of a button.
Yeah.
So did you follow the horror, or were you not a horror guy at all?
I know I've been a horror fan since
I thought so. I thought we discussed this before.
1990 was when I really kind of started to sort of branch. And I had good influences too. I had cousins who were massive horror fans. I have an older cousin who every time I would go over to visit his house, and I'd walk into his room was literally like posters on top of posters of horror movies. You know what I mean? Like movies like 976 Evil. You know what I mean? Which is has like a very very iconic kind of poster image. You know what I mean?
Oh yes.
And stuff like that. So it was always like I always loved. I would every time I would visit. Of course, that was the only room I was allowed in at my cousin's place because my cousin, who's roughly the same age as me, was very antisocial and didn't want anybody anybody in his room and stuff, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, it always like I've always had an interest in movies and stuff, and I'd seen, of course, the first Nightmare and stuff like that. But then 1990 hit, and that was when I first got like a TV in my room and all that stuff. And I think my parents were like, "Here, like, go. Here's a bunch of shit. Here's a Nintendo. Here's some stuff. Like, go spend some time by yourself. Get the fuck away from us," kind of thing. And
were you an only child or?
No, I had a younger sister. I have a younger sister and an older sister.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you mentioned you had brother-in-law, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so like basically like we would go and rent movies, and then I would always rent one for myself, and stuff like that. So that's when so I started watching. It started with the Nightmare. I'm a big Freddy fan.
Yeah.
Love Freddy way more than Jason. And, not that I'm not a big Jason fan, but I always felt
Jason's fairly one-dimensional.
Freddy had a mission. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Jason was always pretty one-dimensional. He just.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting that they never, because I guess 80s horror. Yeah, like I miss the days of being able to just go and browse through a huge horror section, and look at all these things, these movies that I guess you can do it pretty much on streamers now. But the idea that you could just go grab something randomly, and because of that, I think I watched a lot of those Friday the 13th movies. And I'm always surprised because Jason seems to me like the movie where what's that movie, The Edge, the one with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins. You remember the one where they're like,
yes, I do.
Yeah, like one of the guys cheating this one guy's having an affair on the other guy's wife, and the other guy finds out about it, and they go into the woods. They get in a plane crash. They have to rely on each other. There's a bear out there that's tracking them as well. So to me, I always think I want to see that movie where Jason's the bear. Like there's actually something else going on. It's always just Jason killing everybody. Like I'd rather him be the force of nature that people have to contend with while dealing with other things. To me, that's more interesting. It's just like make him the shark or the bear or something, like something that's there. There's another story around it, but he's the force of nature they have to deal with while dealing with their own stuff.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of thing. One of the things I always kind of liked about Halloween and Mike Myers was it's more or less like everybody's kind of running for Michael.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people are also kind of trying to understand what is Michael, why is Michael doing what Michael does, and stuff like that. So
did you like the new ones?
I did not. I
have a friend who's a diehard Halloween fan, and I like the first one.
I loved Halloween.
Yeah, me too.
or Halloween
2018.
Kills, or yeah,
The first one was just
2018
Halloween, 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, 2018, and then Halloween Kills. Just
A
oh my
lot of
god,
kills. I was sitting there with my mouth kind of ajar, going like, "How can this be so much different than the last one that I like so much?" And if I hear somebody yell "Evil dies tonight" one more
Evil
time,
Dead.
I'm going to shoot
I
myself.
know, I know. I was. It took me 3 times to get through that movie.
Oh, the last
I
one
kept like,
too. Like
oh
I have a friend who's a diehard Halloween fan. Like literally watched it since he was a kid. Had seen everything 1,000 times. So excited for these movies. Was so disappointed by 2. Royally upset with 3, and I can understand why. 3 feel like what I said about 3 to him, and I was like, if you're gonna, I can accept that Jason is like a force of nature. Like the idea of what he is something beyond. It's something natural, but something evil, and something that is almost supernatural in nature. If you're going to do that, just do it. Like, don't just sort of skirt it and then not do it. And then sort of like they seem like they even make allegories that like, oh, the more he kills, the stronger he gets, with no evidence whatsoever. Like, no, like, how does anyone assume that? But then, like, when you see it happening to the other guy, kind of, you're like, well, shit, if this is what they're going to do and they're just passing the torch to new guy, okay, just do it. Like, just
yeah,
lean into it and make it happen.
yeah.
I
It
just
was
sort
like
of
they
hate
were
this half measures.
afraid.
Yeah.
Or backpedaled. Like they were going to this certain part, and then all of a sudden it's like they got nervous. Like, oh wait, no, let's go back over here, and like
Yeah, we can't have a different guy be wearing the mask. And it's like, I would have been quite all right with the different guy. Like, if they had done it well, and then we get a
yeah,
fourth one with the other guy in the mask, sure, let's do that.
yeah.
Like,
And then you're carrying on the evil carries on.
yeah, then it's like,
Evil doesn't.
it's almost like an infection, more
Yeah,
than, yeah, which, I
yeah.
don't know, that was much more interesting to me.
And I think they could have used that whole idea, like that idea from the first one that they planted of evil dying tonight.
Mm-hmm.
They could have then, it's like, no, evil never dies. Evil
Yeah.
just keeps moving on. It just
Yeah.
transfers
Changes
itself,
shape, as she says.
changes
At the end.
shape. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more meta,
Yeah.
that way. And I think that would have been a much, much better way to approach it. I mean, like, even right off the hop, like starting the movie where wait a minute, like Jason suddenly he's not Pennywise. He doesn't come out every 27 years
Yeah, I know.
from the
He's
sewer
living in
to
a
kill
sewage
people.
drain. Yeah.
Like, it's like he doesn't really have a mission,
And there's
It's
like a guy
what?
out of somebody like seemingly time travel out of the 70s to become a radio DJ in modern times in a small town. Like, he's like, it's just so ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I had a lot of faith in it up until I started watching that second one. And like, well, to me, I always really hate when, and I mean, as a filmmaker, I'm sure you can appreciate this, when someone beats you over the head with the metaphor. Like,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
every movie has a metaphor, but when they literally beat you over the head with it, I'm like, I check out immediately. Like when in the second one, when the other criminal that people mistake for Michael Myers, he falls and he dies off the roof, and then they're all gathered around him, and the cop leans over and he goes, "Maybe we're the real monsters." And then I'm like, like you shouldn't have to say that. Like you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Everything in the movie is leading towards us knowing that. You don't have to tell us it. Like, oh, if you weren't paying attention, here's what this movie's about. We're just going to tell you now.
And I find like when studios, when they do that sort of style of filmmaking, it's like you're insulting the audience.
Yeah,
Like the audience is a lot smarter than you think. You don't need to do that.
Agreed. So was like after watching all these shows with your parents and stuff and getting into horror, was that like, is that where the seeds of wanting to do film came from, or where did the genesis of that go?
I mean, no, I've always been a film buff, but I became very quickly kind of morphed from films to comics. And it was always kind of comes around to the time of a transition, so like when I got into horror movies, I had moved from Nova Scotia to Prince Edward Island, and then when I got into comics, I had moved from Prince Edward Island back to Nova Scotia. So and I was in junior high, and then I'd made some new friends, and every weekend they would go to the Penhorn Mall in Dartmouth, and they would go to the flea market. So I would tag along with them, and and at the time, like it was roughly around the same time, just before the Death of Superman came out in '93.
The magical
And
time in comic reading.
it was a magical time, and I got sucked in, I think, like everybody else.
How many copies did you
And
buy?
I only had one because at the time the prices were
Yeah,
were
it's true.
crazy. You know what I mean? Like, whether it was the white poly bag or the black poly bag, or
Yeah.
and it's just like I see there's somebody like I had one sealed white poly bag for the return and one open so that I could read it.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, but the death of I never actually got the black poly bag because it was just too expensive. Like, I think there were like sellers trying to sell it for like $100 back then or something. It was crazy, and
It's
I
like
didn't
a
even I wasn't
magical
old enough to have a
time.
job. And that's just it.
Because you
I
can't do
found
that
it
anymore.
was
Like the
no.
news talked about it. They had hearses drive up the comic shops with the comics in them. Like it was such a comics actually were garnered enough attention. I mean, I guess they are now because of Marvel movies, but that's a separate thing. But like the idea of an event in comics so big that the whole world was paying attention to it. And then in classic comics form, and a year later they just undo it all. But it's it's just like, but the idea of that, like having all that media event, the spectacle, all of that stuff, he's really gonna die. Death's gonna mean something in comics. So, I mean, up to this point, death kind of did, right? Like Barry Allen died, I think Hal Jordan had died, and they'd been replaced, and those replacements have been around for a long time. Like, Wally West and Kyle Rayner, like they were like, decades or whatever as in the roles they were in until Superman came back from the dead, and then just seemed like it was a fast track to everybody coming back from the dead.
Well, it's kind of funny too because I remember I'm going back a ways, and I haven't read it in a long time, but it was like around the time that Hal Jordan had died. He had become
the Spectre. Yeah, that's right.
And it was just like, and I remember I was collecting the comics, and I started was like getting really. It was funny too because I was getting really interested in Green Lantern and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, like everything changed, and I was like, oh wait, I didn't like where this was going, so I stopped, and then I went back to Superman. I started Superman because that's when I started noticing the art more than anything else. I became a really big fan of Dan Jurgens at the time.
Oh yeah,
his work on Superman. So I started emulating it, and that's when I started to draw a lot more. And it basically it ended up my at that point my lifelong career goal was to be a comic book artist, and that's pretty much what I spent my most of my time doing. Like I said, watching movies and drawing, and just every month I'd get my Wizard subscription.
Yeah,
And I would go through it, and like that would keep me satiated for literally an entire month. I would literally just eat that book up, and I miss it to this day. I still miss getting my Wizard every month.
It was a sad day when Wizard went away.
I was devastated when Wizard was gone. I was like, come on.
I used to work in a hobby shop, and I was so happy I'd start every month when the new Wizard magazine came in so I could read it while I was working. And
I actually applied for a job at Wizard back in 1998. I was just coming off of 99. It was the late 99. I was just about to graduate from graphic design, and I was like, what am I going to do? I had actually applied to two places. I applied to Wizard, and I applied to View Askew, Kevin Smith and Scott Moser.
You're shooting for the stars.
I was at the time,
and
I was like, I didn't know where I was going, didn't know what. I knew I wanted to be involved in comics somehow, in any way I could. And the funny thing was, I never heard back from Wizard, but I did hear back from Scott Moser.
Oh, really?
And basically, yeah, I did. It was just like, and it was just all it was an email. I sent an email to him, and I was just like, hey, I'm a graphic designer, like, looking for work kind of thing. He's like, and all I got back was, sure, send me your resume. And I was like, holy, and I did it. It's like, I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, Scott Moser emailed me back. And I remember just staring at the email going, I got nothing to send this guy. I don't have a resume. I have nothing. What am I doing? And so it's kind of one of the big regrets because like I never messaged him back. I never sent a resume.
Oh no, we should have told him you were a student. He probably would understand.
I know. Because I was like, I was willing to relocate. I was like, I'll move to Jersey. I don't care. I'll work out of the View Askew offices.
You could be sitting working on Clerks 4 now. I know. Whatever he's working on now, Jane Silent Bob something. Yeah. Well, hey man, that's still really. Oh no, Mallrats 2 is what he's doing now, isn't it? No.
Yeah, he finished Clerks 3, and now apparently Mallrats 2 is coming. I'm curious. I really enjoy Clerks 3. but and then it's funny too because it was again, like everything seems to kind of connect after a while, and it was back in '96 that my now brother-in-law had showed. He brought Clerks to me, and he said, "You got to watch this movie." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And we sat down and watched it. I watched it 3 times that day, and I fell in love with that, and I fell in love with Kevin Smith. And I've been a fan ever since. And it was kind of that moment where I was kind of like, "Holy shit, a 20-something fat guy can make a movie." Mm-hmm. And I was a 20-something fat guy, and I was like, it's possible. It can do that. I don't got to be rich. I don't got to be a connected guy. I can be anybody, and anybody can make a movie. It was kind of that moment where I realized that because I thought up to that point that making movies was a pipe dream, because everything was still shot on film back in the late '90s, early 2000s. There was no digital video really, anything like that then. No YouTube, none of that stuff. So it was just like the very thought idea of making a film seemed impossible, right? Unless you had, money, unless you had some way to do it and stuff like that. And
crazy how accessible it is now. Like you could make what Soderbergh made like a couple movies on his iPhone. Like it's crazy how good of a movie you can make now with just a phone. And a rudimentary knowledge of like miking people and some lighting. Like it's crazy.
And yet for some reason, the minute you pull out your iPhone, everybody's just like, oh, it's like, no, we don't, that's not good enough. And it's just like, what are you talking about? I mean, dude, like the movie Tangerine was shot on an iPhone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was it Side Effects? Was that the Soderbergh movie?
Side Effects was also shot. Yeah, it was also.
There's another one I think he did too. That was. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, even his first film, I think, Sex, Lies, and Videotape was shot very cheaply.
Yeah, actually, I watched that for the first time not too long ago. It's a very good movie.
I've only seen bits and pieces of it. I haven't actually sat and watched.
If you're a Spader fan, it's like it's peak weird sex Spader. Like he had all those movies where they're weird sex stuff. He had that. He had Crash. He had Secretary. There's something else too.
A movie called
Jack's Back. That one.
Night Move. Jack's Back. I love Jack's Back.
Yeah.
That was. I remember what my parents. I watched that with my parents. Can you believe that?
I love how they sort of leveraged that in his character on The Office and made him like a weird sort of sex obsessed sort of guy. It's so good. Robert California. One of my favorite lines ever from that show is when he's talking to Jim and he says, "Jim, I can give you 2 analogies. One's about animals and one's about sex. What would you prefer?" And Jim's like, "Animals, please." And he's like, "When 2 animals are having sex." It's like one of the funniest. Like, it's so good. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like that, but there's like a certain romance to those guys, like those Soderberghs, those Smiths. Smith, I know, like Clerks, the same as me. That was a movie when you were like, because I was born in '85, so like I'm more of a '90s kid. But when I came into that, like that's a friend had seen it somewhere on IFC or something, and then said we got to watch this. And I think we rented it or we found it somewhere because this is before you could really just go download stuff off the internet. So. And if I had the same reaction, I was like, wow, like that was probably my first taste of, I would say like a movie that's not, like not a big budget movie. At that point as a kid, my parents probably only rented whatever the big movies were, like Jurassic Parks or whatever.
Mine too. Yeah, same.
So like, it's my first probably brushing of saying, oh, like movies can be awesome, not massive big budget explosion things, but they can like reach you on some level. Because even as a kid, like you don't know all of the stuff that those characters are going through. You probably haven't experienced it yourself, or I didn't at that point. But I could still but enough of it, like disappointment, girls, that sort of stuff. You could kind of feel it, especially being nerdy and all in those conversations that they're having about nerdy subjects that me and my friends were having. But that was probably my first like cusping grab of like there's weird cinema out there, low budget stuff that's quality. And it led me to a bunch of other stuff. After that, I went on a deep rabbit hole of like IFC and like I used to have the Scream channel, is that what it's called? Which was like the horror, before, and that led me to Shudder. I have Shudder now, but that led me to one of my all-time favorite movies. I have a huge poster over my wall right now. I'm looking at Phantom of the Paradise, which is
oh my god, wow, yeah. It's funny. I only just learned about that movie.
Oh, watch it, dude! It's so good. Brian De Palma, it's perfect. I'll watch it with you. I watch it with people. It's my favorite thing to do. Anyway, go watch Phantom of the Paradise. It's so good.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I was in a. It's funny. I'd decided to go back to school because I wanted to get my teaching degree. Until a bunch of film projects came up that unfortunately I ended up putting on hold. But I was like, a film genre course came up, and I was like, you know what? I haven't taken a film class in a long time. So I was like, screw it, I'll take this one, and I took it, and that's where I met this professor, and he introduced me to that, and I haven't
Was it
watched it
De
yet, but
Palma in
it's
general, or just that film?
I'm a big fan of De Palma, and Untouchables is one of my all time favorites. I mean, that's funny. Everybody's like, oh, Scarface, and it's like, no,
I actually
no,
prefer
he's
like
got
his weird giallo stuff that was like before that.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Dress to Kill, I love.
Like Dress to
Body
Kill
Double
is
is fantastic.
fucking amazing.
I love Body Double.
Yeah,
Raising
Blowout,
Cain is great. Obsession is
Blowout,
really good. Blowout is fantastic.
Blowout is
Yeah,
fantastic.
I like Obsession a lot too. Actually, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
He did a good job of like making John Lithgow really sinister. I know everyone knows him from Dexter for being kind of a bad guy, but he was in a lot of De Palma stuff as the bad guy, and
He
he's
was.
superb.
It shows too. I think Lithgow's range
Oh
really
yeah,
well. Because I mean, of course, growing up, I mean, for me, it was always Harry and the Hendersons. That's
yeah,
and then of course, Third Rock. Where it's
yeah.
just
Third
comedy,
Rock's
comedy,
probably where I
comedy.
recognize him from the most.
Yeah,
I listened to a podcast that Joe Dante's on. I'm a huge fan of his movies, and he does one with Josh Olson, a scriptwriter, called "The Movies That Made Me," where they just talk to people, and they usually give them the people that are on it will just pick their 10 movies, and they might be just ones that influence them, or they might be like my 10 favorite comedies. Like Bobcat Goldthwait did like his 10 favorite Disney, like live action Disney movies from like the 70s, the 60s and 70s. Like
Pete's Dragon, baby.
yeah, computer wore tennis shoes, all those sort of things. I
Oh
love
my
Pete's
God,
Dragon.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
Ah, very young Kurt Russell.
like really like I think Joe Bob Briggs did like his favorite musicals. Like sometimes they pick stuff that's not like what would be on brand for them, but anyway, stories come out often from Joe Dante talking about, because I love all his movies, talking about production and stuff. And I guess he was offered Batman, and
No
he
way. I
almost
didn't know
did it.
that.
He almost did it. He was going to make John Lithgow be the Joker.
I heard that.
But then he decided not to because he didn't care enough about Batman. He didn't feel like it would be the right project for him. But I was like, man, that would have been amazing. 80s Lithgow as the Joker, it'd been
The
fantastic.
Joker. It would have been interesting. Well, it's kind of funny. I don't know. Have you ever seen Santa Claus the movie?
What, like the Tim Allen one?
No, no, no. It is from 1980. 1 second. 1985.
Santa Claus the
And
movie. No.
it's got Dudley Moore,
Okay.
John Lithgow. John Lithgow is the villain. And oh my God, what is his name? David Huddleston, who of course everybody remembers from The Big Lebowski. He plays Santa Claus.
Who's he in The Big Lebowski?
He's Lebowski.
Oh yeah, the Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
He's great. He's so good in that movie.
He's so good in that movie, and it's like, so. I mean, it's a Santa Claus movie. It's a kids movie, but 1985. I saw it. I was 6, so it's like
it resonated.
But yeah, well, I mean, it's even got Burgess Meredith in it,
wow.
as a cameo. Okay. He's got a small little cameo in it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like if you watch that, you could see he could definitely play a Joker type character. Like, mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see him.
Buckaroo Banzai, he's pretty unhinged go-to character in that too.
True. Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
Cool. So when did movie making become a thing?
Movie making became a thing. It's funny. When I was in graphic design, we ended up taking a course. One of our separate classes was a video class. And so me and one of my classmates, we had attempted to make a few short films that never really panned out, never went anywhere. And it was really hard to do. Like, we were shooting on, I believe, I8 at the time. Mm-hmm. And everything had to be, any editing, anything like that. We had to figure out the story very easily, and it had to be edited in camera, like a shot of this, a shot of this, a shot of this.
That's rough.
Yeah, but we tried to shoot an action sequence I remember in the school, and it caused such an issue. They thought we were really fighting. It was a fight scene that we were choreographing, and we had one of our other classmates who had the camera shooting us where we were trying, and basically it was like we were trying to do this like school fight thing. And I guess we had made it look so believable that all of a sudden a bunch of teachers like came running out of the classrooms and were like, you guys need to stop that now. And they're like rushing toward us, thinking that we were in the middle of a fight. We're no, we're shooting a movie. And they were like, oh, that. So yeah, I mean, and that was like kind of like the first time had been introduced to Adobe Premiere. It was the first version of Premiere that I know of that came out, and I had taken. We had an assignment where we had to create like a trailer, and I had taken the movie Fallen
Michael
with
Douglas?
no
Oh, the
with
thing of falling down. It's Denzel
Denzel
Washington,
Denzel Washington
John Goodman,
and stuff like that.
the
And
demon one.
I had like married the music to uh, I don't know how to say it. Enya's Boudicca. Um, anyway, and so it was the first time I'd ever actually edited anything. So
So
that was
that
kind of like my
movie, did you
first.
pick that movie specifically for a reason?
I was a big fan. I believe it was Elias Koteas
Yep.
was in that. He played. I was a big, still am a big fan of him, and I was also a big Denzel fan at the time.
Oh,
Still am too.
yeah. You're talking about Casey Jones, Elias
Yeah,
Koteas,
yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh yeah.
he's a great actor. Actually, he Crash is his Cronenberg's Crash. His role in that is crazy. And
Yeah.
what's the other one? He's in pretty much a bunch of Adam McGoyan movies.
He's done a bunch of them.
Exotica.
Exotica,
Yeah, right.
and but like he's done like little bit parts. Like I liked
Yeah,
him in
Shutter Island.
he's in Shutter
Yeah,
Island.
he's in a lot of
He
stuff.
also did Tucker, A Man in His Dream for Coppola. He was in that. He
Right.
played one of the car designers. Every once in a while he kind of pops up in something, and I'm a big fan, big fan of him,
Yeah, he's a
especially
really good
Crash.
actor.
Crash is one of my absolute favorites.
I defend that movie constantly. Like so many
I
people
don't
dismiss
understand why
it.
anybody would not like that movie. I mean, yeah, it's fucked up, but it's supposed to be. Like that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Is it's about these people who have this major traumatic thing happen to them and it changes them. You know what I mean? And it changes the way they look at not only their bodies, but life in general and stuff like that. I mean, they literally, you know, like experience it's like a miracle, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That these people are alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the idea that like there's something almost primal to the idea of like dying in a car crash, I guess, which is something that they've seen, like it's some cars are like an artificial thing, but they're almost like a force of nature in themselves because of how much we rely on them and how they populate our world. Like you need them. So it's like this very strange sort of juxtaposition with like, regular people that get kind of caught up in that. And then you're right, it change like some traumatic event changes them and rewires them in a way that they don't understand. I mean, I guess you can attribute it to kink stuff as well, but to me, it seems like it's transcends that. It's like a very, I don't know. I love that movie. I think it's great. I agree with you on that. Cronenberg has a really way of like getting into your brain and hitting something that you haven't thought about before. Like even his old stuff, like Shivers and Rabbit, I watched those a couple of years ago, and I was like, Jesus, these are like, unsettling on a level beyond unsettling that most horror movies hit you with, and he had like no budget, and it's crazy.
And I've worked with Alan Collins, who was his editor on The Brood.
Oh wow, really? I love that movie.
Yeah. Alan Collins, great guy and stuff like that.
Wow, that'd be cool.
Like I've edited for him and stuff like that, and done some color correct stuff. But he's for the most part he's kind of semi-retired. He kind of just makes his own little films and stuff like that. And I've never for some reason never gotten a chance to actually sit down and talk to him about that experience, about what it was like.
Well, that movie itself is incredibly like it's deeply personal movie. When I was watching that movie, I'm like, he had to have been going through a divorce when he made this. And I looked it up and he was. This is like his divorce movie. And I was like, oh my God. like there's such a power to be a filmmaker that you're like, I'm upset. I'm going through a divorce. I don't like how this is going. Or I dislike my ex or whatever. And it's like, I'm going to make a whole movie centered around it. But all my feelings and make it into some horrible, monstrous, thing. And Oliver Reed, it's such a good movie.
And I think that the other thing too is like, there's something to say about, Cronenberg being able to come up in a time when, the Canadian government specifically, but the people were willing to fund, genre films and stuff like that. And and I think that's the biggest thing that's missing now in Canadian cinema is that that interest in genre filmmaking. And people sort of trying to step out of the typical dramatic structure that we
Yeah,
mostly see in modern Canadian films now.
I
A lot
agree.
of them feel the same, and it's just like it sucks that in a weird way, like Cronenberg went to the States and of course had the career that he's had and stuff like that. And he's always talked interestingly, like I've heard little bits where he's talked fondly about making films in Canada, but at the same time being reliant on public money.
Yeah.
And
Well,
how
and
that
a
can
lot of
hurt.
blowback. Like I think when Rabbit came out, was it Rabbit or Shivers that was funded by the government? It was one of them. Maybe it was
I
both.
think
I
it was
don't know.
I think it was probably both, but I think it was Shivers was I think one of the
The
ones
one that
where
caught the attention, yeah, because it
yeah, I think
was.
they were just like, oh my god, this is like
I
almost
can't believe our
pornographic
tax
kind of
dollars
thing.
paid for this.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. And it's like it's a real shame because like I don't know, like and there it's interesting enough because Canadian directors I find have very interesting. A lot of the ones that I've seen anyway, very interesting, unique voices. Like Sarah Polley's is a really cool director. Obviously Cronenberg is another one. Adam McGowan does some really unique stuff. I really like Vincenzo Natali. Like the movie Cube, I think is a masterpiece. Like,
Cube was
um,
a fantastic film,
I
and
actually
it's
really like
just like
Splice and some of his other stuff too. But
I have not seen Splice.
well, have you watched the Del Toro show on Netflix, the Cabinet of Curiosities?
Not yet.
He did probably my favorite episode. Well, one of my favorite episodes of that. It's called the
Oh, okay.
Graveyard Rats, I think it's called, and it's very good. Natalie directed it. It's fantastic.
Oh, cool. I'll have to
Yeah, I think
check
it's
that
the
out.
third episode in it, but it's it's like a grave robber in like Victorian times. Um, yeah, I don't want to tell you too much, but it's fantastic. Yeah, no, you're right about that. Canadian voices, that's really cool.
And that's just it. It's every once in a while, like a filmmaker will come out that I maybe haven't heard or something like that. But I think one of the filmmakers I think who actually influenced me after film school and stuff like that was Clement Virgo. Like I saw the movie Lie with Me, and I thought that was fantastic. And he just had a new film come out, but I know he's been doing like television and stuff like that. But yeah, like I mean the Sarah Pauli's, the Clement Virgos, Adam McGowan haven't seen much of in a long time. But like I mean even Don McKellar was
Oh
doing
right, yeah, I always forget about
some
him.
great things.
Yeah,
Um,
Blindness was
uh,
a really cool movie.
yeah, and stuff like that. And it's
Every time I think
it's
of him,
weird. Like
uh,
you kind of it's almost like we don't a lot of people don't know enough about about our own Canadian filmmakers. You know what I mean? It's like they kind of pop up for a little bit and then they kind of go away, and it's almost like you don't hear from them, and it's like we don't. It's almost like nobody's really talking about them like we should be, and
yeah,
stuff like that. And of course, with Sarah Polley winning the Oscar. Now I haven't seen Talking Women yet, but I hear it's a fantastic film, and she's insanely talented.
yeah,
Uh,
agreed.
and obviously probably well deserved. And that's kind of thing. And so the hope is that you know that's not it. You know what I mean? Like obviously
Well,
we've been
usually they
talking
just
about
get swallowed up in the American system, and they kind of almost don't get
exactly.
identified as Canadian directors anymore. Like,
Yeah, like Denis Villeneuve, right? You know what I mean?
yeah, oh
Like
yeah, yeah. I forget about
he
him. I love his everything he's done. But yeah,
my
I
only
mean,
problem with
obviously,
his stuff I find is lately it's a lot of too much style over substance for
you think
me.
so?
You know what I mean?
I know. I think
A little bit.
I'm in the camp, and I could get killed for having this opinion, but I think Blade Runner 2049 is better than the original.
Oh
I am sorry,
no!
I do,
Oh
I
my
really do.
God!
I love the
I think
original, but man, oh man,
visually it's stunning, and I mean,
yeah,
and
it's
that's
not even
and
just
I
visually. I don't know.
but that's
The
I
pace
mean,
is better, I think.
I give all the unfortunately the visual credit to Deakins. He is my all time favorite cinematographer.
Mm.
I mean, there's others that I also like, but his work just just astounds me, and that's what I think. Like to me, like Blade Runner 2049 is visually, I think, a masterpiece. Story wise, it wasn't there for me. It didn't go deep enough. It felt like it was more of a retelling of the same old
Yeah,
than without getting really into the crux of the replicants. Not like, I expected something grittier, not necessarily darker, but just something, you know, Blade Runner-esque, but just updated, I guess. I don't know. I guess I wasn't really sure what I was expecting, and I wasn't expecting what I watched. And I didn't. It's not that, but it's not that I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's just that by the time it ended, I was like, really? I was like, yeah. I'm kind of. I felt like I was no better off from not having seen Blade Runner where it was before. So, but even by the time I got to the end, I was like, what have I learned from this? What have we learned from any of this? And I was just like, I don't think I really learned anything. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. Maybe I missed the message.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, there's something about it that really struck a chord with me. I don't know. Like I really like his work. Like I love Sicario and
Prisoners.
Actually, no, I haven't seen that one yet. And it's on my list, I know.
My God.
But his early one, Polytechnique, about the shooting there in Quebec.
I haven't seen Polytechnique.
Oh man, I was in tears watching that movie. And
I think one of the main reasons why I haven't watched it is because we know the story, the story behind it and stuff like that, and I think I know it's going to be a hard watch.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I have to be ready for the watch. You know what I mean? I've got to sit down with like whether it's my fucking box of tissues and to cry into, and it's not a popcorn. It's not a I'm gonna sit down with popcorn, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a real popcorn type movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, like Arrival, and I mean, I love Dune. I haven't seen Incendies yet, so but all that.
Dune, I mean, again, beautiful film. And the funny thing is, like, so on the other spectrum of that, I may get murdered for this, but I love David Lynch's Dune.
Oh no, I'm a huge Lynch fan. I can understand.
I'm a big Lynch fan. So I've always had a fondness for that movie.
I just got my Criterion. So this Criterion had a sale, and I just got in Lost Highway and Inland Empire. The Criterion's just
nice. Lost Highway. Oh, so good.
Yeah, no, I'm
Lost
a big
Highway. So good. I gotta watch Inland Empire again because I remember I watched it the first time and I was like, I don't get this. Yeah. I was lost.
Did you expect to?
It's like, no, not really. I mean, I always expect to have questions, but I think when it comes to Lynch, you're just like, you're along for a ride.
Yeah.
In Mulholland Drive. I mean, there's that scene with what is it, Naomi Watts, where she's in there doing the audition.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was literally on the edge of my seat going, this is the most amazing performance I've ever. And it's just an audition. I was blown away by the talent.
It's so insane when you get people that do these roles, especially like I watched Tar, the new one that Todd Field did that Cate Blanchett was up for, and he was saying if he wrote the movie for her and if she couldn't do it, he wouldn't have done the movie. And it's like, man, like to put that much faith and to know that I mean, obviously Cate Blanchett's somebody that can do anything as far as acting goes, but
oh my God.
Yeah, the movie was very good, very interesting, but very good.
Really good character film.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I like that the her undoing wasn't like fleshed out in a way like we don't really get the full story. You know what I mean? Like we just get bits and drops and pieces of it enough to know that basically what happened, but not it's not like you get this whole tale where you see all that happen. It's just like we're only learning about it kind of when the rest of the world is within the world of the film. And and the fact that it's like changing it to a female and not a dude who took advantage of a young woman, like that sort of stuff is very very interesting. And there's like an unsettling nature to it, like with the noises in the night and all that sort of stuff, and reinventing yourself. And it's just, I don't know, very cool movie.
Yeah, and I mean, and like the same thing, like with the weird S-shape images that we kept seeing, that it was almost like she was trying to hide, and stuff like that. And it was always kind of like, where, like, I remember when we started seeing more of them, I was like, where are we going with this? That kind of lost me a little bit, but at the same time, I thought it was interesting because it shows that sort of dynamic of, it kind of makes you think of like, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and kind of thing.
Yeah.
And obviously at one point, she was on the lower end, You
Yeah.
know, it's like when she goes back home
Pretty
to her
humble
childhood
beginnings. Yeah.
home,
Her
pretty
name's not
humble
even Lydia.
beginnings. Yeah, you know what
It's
I mean? And
Linda.
it's just like everything else. She became this this rising star, this powerhouse, and like obviously a lot of other people, that got to her, and she got a big head, and she used that, to her advantage, and then of course you kind of see where she ended up, and it makes you kind of wonder. It's like, did she really suffer? You know what I
No,
mean? Like,
and it's funny
really?
because I don't think the ending is as sad as if people are listening to this, they haven't seen it yet. I guess skip ahead a bit. But I don't think the ending is like the ending's supposed to
Spoiler
make you
alert.
think she had a real fall from grace, but like what she's doing, that's very popular. Like, like video game music is very popular, and like performing it in front of those sort of events is probably financially very, very good for her. So like,
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. Like, I think it's sort of obviously commentary on predatory behavior with people in power, but the idea of
Exactly.
seeing her use all of those tools that historically we know men to use, but seeing a woman do it was interesting, because I don't know if it just frames it in a way that makes it more accessible to everybody, or to realize like, because it always seems like, well, that's how guys are, but to see a woman do it, you're like, oh, this is deeply unsettling and not cool. So I think Fields took an interesting spin on it. It always makes me wonder, like, obviously we'll get back to talking about you, but it always makes me wonder, like, that is a story he only made like 4 movies, right? Like every movie he's made has
Yeah.
been like fantastic. So the Little Children, and what was the other one?
I
I
don't
can't
even
remember.
remember. I remember looking him up, like, like one of his biggest claims of fame is he's the guy who he co-created Big League Chew.
Right, yeah. He
Sold,
talked about
sold it to Wrigley and stuff like that. It's
he
just
was
like,
on Maron's
what?
podcast a while ago, and he talked about that. He doesn't get any residuals from it. He like helped a guy create it, and that guy sold it. So he
Yeah.
never, yeah. He's like, it's not like Maron was like, I figured you'd be like sitting there on the getting that sweet big league chew, money. He's like, no, I don't get any of that, which is pretty funny.
He's
But
like, no, I'm a filmmaker instead. But I mean, he's also a like ridiculously accomplished musician. You know what I
right, I
mean?
just forget
So
about that.
like,
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, you can to me, it's like I was kind of, as I was watching Tar, it's like I can almost kind of see him and his love of music
Hmm.
in that film. Like you can see that is, it's almost like a love letter to music, but it's
Yep,
almost it's just it's a bit chaotic, but because obviously, like, even in obviously clearly any part of the music industry, there could be turmoil and scandal. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like you think even at that kind of
Yeah.
level, that classical orchestral level, there could even be those kinds of attitudes.
Yeah, I guess it
You know,
doesn't matter it's almost like that's just the tool to get to, like it doesn't matter what field it is really. I mean, Wall Street, or guys that write, like, what was the Bombshell movie they made about the Roger Ailes stuff? Like, it's just sort of the skin about what people like. It doesn't really matter the industry, I guess. It's just once you're at a level of power, you can do that. And I mean, thankfully you can't get away with it like you used to. But yeah, Fields only did 3 movies: In the Bedroom, Little Children, and this one. And
I've seen Little Children. Little Children was good. I haven't seen In
a
the Bedroom though.
lot of space between each of them, though, like 10 years between each movie or something. He acted too. He's an actor a long time before that. He was in like Eyes Wide Shut and a bunch of movies like that. But yeah, no, to me it's just like the idea that this is the movie that he waited 10 years to make, and it's like it's just such a deeply, I don't know, strange. It's a strange movie. Like, it's strange in the way that, like, I always find whatever someone's passion project is interesting. Like, why did this speak to you on a level that's been sitting with you this long, and this is what you chose to do. But I loved it. That was
And,
fantastic.
and that's
I
one of the things I think that's been sort of on my mind lately. Just, I mean, just as a filmmaker, is trying to figure out, how because yeah, like, usually as filmmakers, there may be a stretch of time in between, your projects and things like that. And you think of like guys like Todd Field, or some of the others where it's like, sometimes 7 years goes by, and you're just like, well, what, like, it's not like as a filmmaker I'm making a lot of money or anything like that. So
Yeah,
it's just like, what do you do, in between your projects? Because it's not like people are always banging on your door, you going, please, make my movie, kind of thing. So that's it's lately. I mean, if anything, that's probably the one thing that's been on my mind a lot,
mm,
is, not, because obviously I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but there's so much competition out there.
Yeah.
The hard part is trying to stand out, and to me, it's just all about proving yourself. I'm obviously not there yet. I think I've been very lucky, and I've been in the right place at the right time, doing the right things. So I think I've proven myself up to a certain point. But my hope is that I can sort of then parlay that and expand my my horizons and broaden my scope. I mean, I there's so many other things I want to be doing as far as filmmaking. It's like I've only made those 2 films. I made one short film previous to that, but and it's one's a wrestling movie and now a horror movie coming up. It's just like I just want to keep doing more. It's just you get that bug, you get that taste for it, and you're just like, I just want to do this every day. Can I just do this every day, please?
It's fun, especially like the Halifax film community seems a bit incestuous in that the same, like, because there are a lot of productions that come through, but like day players and directors and stuff generally are the same sort of people, and certainly not a lot that are local to Halifax, but
no, they're not. It's kind of it's too bad, either that or for the most part there's so little projects going on that it's I find the same problem too as an editor, because I've been an editor for since 2007. And it's the same sort of thing, like the jobs tend to go to the same people over and over again, and it sort of gets harder and harder to be sort of that voice, even though like you get known as, say, somebody who's good at what they do. It's not that it's still especially in Nova Scotia, it's still all about who you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I feel that even as an actor, like you'll go to audition for some. I mean, I guess the auditions are all mostly self tapes now, which I'm getting used to and do kind of like. But you go to the room and you're sitting there and there's a guy beside you and the cast director goes, "Bill, how are you, Bill?" And they hug and I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. You know what I mean? Like you just immediately makes you feel like, oh shit, like I'm not getting this. Bill's getting this. She knows Bill. It's like.
It still reminds me, like I do this a lot too, where it's like moments like whether it's in my life or somebody else's life, it always comes back to some sort of pop culture reference. And every time I think about it, I think about the time where where Homer is applying to be a nuclear technician for the first time. And he's sitting there, and there's 2 other guys sitting next to him, and Smithers comes out, and he's like, okay, Homer Simpson. He's like, oh, is that so and so from blah blah blah? And he's like, and then they know the secret fucking handshake, whatever the hell it is. And meanwhile, like they're just skipping over Homer. Yeah. And it's like next thing you know, these 2 guys are heist. Like, oh, I know this guy. He's already hired. And it's like, what the fuck?
They both went to the same college or something, and they're all like, yeah, and he's just sitting there like, I feel that way too. Like anytime, it feels
like that's yeah.
Like I got into the union because I was a stand-in for someone in a movie, and then turned out that the person I was standing in for was supposed to have a twin brother, or not a twin brother, just a brother gets mistaken for, and they hadn't cast it yet. So then they're like, well, are you in the union? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, after you're done today working, just go to wardrobe and try on the outfit. And I was like, all right. So I went to wardrobe and it fit perfectly and showed him, and he goes, all right, you're hired. And it was like a decent role, and I was like, they never even got me to read anything, like I could have been terrible, like, and it, I don't know if it's just that the movie was low budget enough they didn't care. I have no idea, but like, I think I did well in it. So like that gave me enough. And I got a part on Haven one time, which gave me credit as well.
Awesome.
But
that's awesome.
So how did the wrestling movie come about? The one that you and I met on, I believe.
So let's see here. So basically what had happened was, me and Tieran, my producer, of course, Tieran. But for anybody listening, Tieran Hawkins was my producer on Real Wrestling. So that was a show that we were commissioned by Bell 5 TV1, where originally, like the original pitch idea, that what we wanted to do, or at least what I wanted to do, was I wanted to take a bunch of wrestlers and do it Ultimate Fighter style. I wanted to have them live in a house all together and have it like this tournament. You know what I mean? That was my pitch to Kieran. And
so they live in a house and fight in the tournament.
They live in a house, and they had to wrestle to stay. You know what I mean? So they would wrestle, and of course, I mean, we would know the story behind it and stuff like that. But this idea was that the story was they were all invited to this tournament. They all got to live in the house. There was going to be a big payout afterwards in the story of the show, and so it was kind of like script. You think about it as like it was scripted reality in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? That's how we wanted to do it. Now I don't know how it got pitched or whatever, if that got pitched or anything like that, but basically it got whittled down to it's basically just a tournament. Basically it's these people, and we created this promoter persona, this female on a gold, who just wants to create the best wrestling promotion in the world, and had invited all these famous wrestlers to compete to be the top one. And it just so happened they're this young upstart, who dreams of being the best wrestler, gets invited on due to another guy's injury, and he ends up winning the whole thing. So we had done that.
Underdog Tale.
I'm a big fan of the Underdog Tale. Rocky is one of my all-time favorite movies. So
good choice.
Oh yeah, and so we had done that, and I guess based on that, another producer who was working with Swearnet at the time had plans to do a live show for Wrestle Center. And they were supposed to do this live show, and like the third wave of COVID hit or something like that, and they couldn't. They couldn't do the actual live show, but they still had to supply Swearnet with something. So to my knowledge, basically they were like, we'll just do something else, but make it wrestling. So basically, Jason Moser, the owner of Wrestle Center, went to Tyrion and said, I need a show. It's got to be done by this date. I need something. What can you come up with? So Tyrion came to me and Dave Boyce, and we basically sat down and we just basically created the story of Turnbuckles. About this, retired wrestler, who owns this dive bar and, gets in trouble with the mob and needs to kind of find a way out, kind of thing. It's in a lot of ways, it's a bit of a cliched story. It's been told before, but my
not
hope
so much
was
with
that,
wrestling though. Like the
no, definitely,
wrestling.
Exactly. And wrestling was something new, something people hadn't really seen before. I was unfamiliar with the show Heels at the time. I believe that was starting or something like that, but I'm still not familiar with it. But to me it was something new. Basically I wanted something like a Roadhouse, but with wrestling.
Yeah, which I think you did a good job on creating that idea. That's the first kind of idea I had when T approached me about being in it. So yeah.
And and it's the funny thing, like the stuff that I have made up to that point, Turnbuckles, I'm still so proud of that movie. It's probably one of the only things that I've actually made that I sit back and can watch by myself and enjoy.
Nice.
And not be critical, not sit back and go, oh, why did I do this? Or, why did I do that? Or anything, like, oh, look at that shot, look at that edit or anything. It's like, I could sit back, watch it and be like, you know what? I did the best I could with what I had on this, and I really enjoy this product.
Yeah. No,
so I'm super proud of it. It was a ton of fun. I fucking loved working with you. I loved working with Jim Joyce. I loved working with Kieran and everybody on it. It was a fun time. It was a lot of work, because we had like the schedule was crazy tight.
Yeah, it was tight.
It was really tight. But I think great things can come out in those kind of situations.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been around film sets and I've been around wrestling, and it's weird to be on both at the same time, like where you're planning a match but you're also acting and you have a script, and like I know like there's a level of improv involved because you guys the wrestling matches are left up to the wrestlers really, but I mean you guys weren't skinning most of it as a wrestler tale. There's a wrestler at the center of it, but the people that were fighting were just fighting in a wrestling ring. They weren't like trained wrestlers, so it was fun coming up with like how to make that work. I mean, obviously, then play the character that I was given as an Irish mobster, which was a hoot to try to do. I still remember. I often tell that story.
I thought you did great.
Thanks, man. I enjoyed it. I tell that story on set where we're doing the practice run, and I smashed the glass, and you're like, "Okay, that was good," but we're still practicing to don't smash any more glasses. We only have like 3 of them. Because I remember going like, "Do I smash it?" And then I don't think anybody answered me, so I was like, "I guess I do it." And then I was just like, You're like, great, but don't smash it until we're ready to go, because I really get like so many of these fake glasses.
And
But,
I think added to that, I think it was like I wasn't sure how many, and then it was just like one got smashed, and I was like, you know what? Let me double check on that. And I was like, how many of these do we actually have?
one
Before
more.
I
No.
move forward, it's like we only got one more, and I was like, okay, I was like, here we go. So we can't smash any more glasses. We
Oh,
only got one
fun.
more, guys.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a blast. Yeah, I had a really good time. It's funny because it was like, you know, it was just fun being on a film set with people, like cool people that y'all knew, and it felt like a more relaxed environment, which wasn't fun. How did it, like, I don't want to, but how did it do as far as the Swearnet stuff goes? Did it?
As far as I know, it was well received.
Oh,
It
good.
was, because the whole thing about Turnbuckles is it's essentially a feature length pilot
Mhm.
for what we hope to be a TV show.
Yeah.
And it's done well enough that we're told that there's interest, but we haven't been given a green light on it yet. So
Okay.
I don't know. My hope is that it becomes a TV show and we get to keep doing that again.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
I
awesome.
think that would be a ton of fun, and I would love the opportunity to do that because I mean, for the most part, it's like horror movies are definitely fun, but they're complex.
Yeah.
There's a way more moving parts. So I find like that kind of stuff is it's a little lighter, a little more easier on the brain, and the schedule, and and something you can be a little more fun with. It's you know horror is harder to do in that like it's very specific. So there's not as much like improv and things like that.
What's the biggest
That you're
hurdle?
sort of able to do.
Because you guys just did the horror movie this past year, right?
Yeah, we
What
just
what
did.
were like the biggest hurdles you had with it?
Shooting at night is really difficult.
Yeah.
Shooting at night is really hard to do and takes a lot longer than you think.
Yeah. The lighting alone
You
must
know,
be a nightmare.
the lighting. It wouldn't say it was a night. I'm sure Josh, the cinematographer, would probably say it was. It was it was probably a nightmare, but it really comes down to, I mean, weather. Like when you're shooting outside, right? So not only do you have the complexity of having to work at night, but the complexity of like high winds. We had the winds had picked up at one night where we literally had all hand anybody we could possibly wasn't either in the scene or holding a camera or anything like that, like holding on to light stands because the wind was so powerful. It was
Wow.
blowing flags over and stands over and stuff like that, and we
Jeez.
just didn't want any gear broken. So it was just like everybody's just like, okay, you just hold on to that for the next and it was cold.
Yeah.
It had been summer, probably I think things would have been maybe a little bit better shooting at night because it would have been cooler
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I did promise I had to promise Josh that the next feature that I do that we're working together on, no night shoots. I had to say no
It's
night
like,
shoots,
but it's
buddy.
inside. You're like, no, it's at night. Can't do it. Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah. Can't do
Stuff
it.
like that.
That's funny. So can you talk about what that's about? I mean, I know, but I don't know if you can reveal
Uh,
anything.
I'm not, I honestly don't. I don't know if I can reveal anything either. I mean,
That's fair.
I'll certainly talk about it, and if we find out to the otherwise, we'll just save it until it kind of comes out.
Sure.
But yeah, like I had been hired on again by the producer of Turnbuckles to do a horror movie based on again like a. It started off as what we wanted to do is we wanted to pitch. We wanted to do a remake of Little Shop of Horrors.
Right.
And apparently, to my knowledge, it's public domain in the United States, but it's not in Canada.
Really?
So yeah, so for some reason we weren't able to do a complete remake in Canada, and I don't know what the legality of it was, but it had something to do with the legality of
Interesting.
the
Because I
it's
know
of
Corman
the
didn't have faith in it, didn't think it would, last or be popular. So that's why he never bothered to pay to renew the copyright. And that's why it
yeah,
kind of became
and it's
but,
weird too because like I mean I love Frank Oz's version.
yeah.
So there's some of the best performances come from that movie. And so when I like I was in like based on that. And then for some reason we found out we couldn't do it, so we're like, well, let's do something else. Like, is there something similar we can do? So basically, it was like, well, let's instead of we can't do a living plant. Like, what about if it was like a weed plant, and it went from a weed plant to a weed monster. So basically, and then that's where Curse of the Reaper Beast was born.
That's
So
the
we
title?
yeah, Curse of the
Nice.
Reaper Beast
I think Reefer Beast
is
has a
the
nice
title.
ring to it. I like that.
Magic, you can't wait for
Actually,
Reaper
yeah, I
Beast
didn't
2,
know
The
this because
Awakening.
what was Kyle sending you these? Because we have a mutual friend, Kyle,
Yeah.
who we were chatting about this. I think he did tell me the title, or maybe it was T when we were chatting, and I was talking about, oh, well, you got to do like Bride of the Reefer Beast, like
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. And Kyle was writing some of them down. I don't know if he got passed back to you, but I remember thinking like, man,
There was
Bride
a
of the
few
Reefer
ones
Beast.
that got back to me. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Bride came back. Like I was like, we talked about like
Every
Return
horror
of the
film
Reaper
does the
Beast,
Bride.
Bride of the Reaper Beast, Reaper Beast, The
Beyond.
Awakening, Reaper Beast Beyond,
The Reckoning.
I still want to do. I actually want to do a prequel telling the actual Reaper Beast story. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We hint at it. We hint at the creation of the Reaper Beast in the movie, but we don't actually see the creation. And I was like, oh, if we're gonna do sequels, we got to make the prequel version.
Oh yeah.
Like,
or
it's like
like
his Inception.
Candyman 2.
Yeah.
Just do a sequel that tells you what happened in the before.
Yeah, exactly.
So
just don't do Candyman 3.
No,
because that one sucked.
It's funny because I'm kind of a completist. Like you collect movies too.
Yep.
I saw on social media there, and so I did end up when Vestron put out the third one, I had to get it just because I had the first two. But I was like, same with like the Beyond Reanimator. It's like, like I like 1 and 2 a lot, but that third one was not that great. But you gotta close the circle.
It's up there. It's kind of up there with like the Hellraiser movies. Like they just
those
get
went off the rails with like 4,
and
yeah.
worse.
Well, it got to a point
and
with those where they just had any horror script, and they're like, let's just throw Pinhead in it and make it a Hellraiser movie. Like most of those
feels that way.
movies, yeah, most of them were that way. They were other scripts for other movies that they just rewritten and injected Pinhead in somehow and make it a Hellraiser movie.
Meanwhile, Clive Barker's going, "What the fuck, guys?"
Yeah. The new one that they did, like the sort of remake, I liked.
It was good. They did a much
bit.
better job. They did a really good job. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wish Clive Barker would do more stuff. I like Nightbreed a lot, and Lord of Illusion I liked a lot too.
Might be great. I really enjoyed Lord of Illusion. One of the bloodiest movies I had seen, I think, up to that point in time.
Yeah, I love sort of the Scott Bakula character, the like the grizzled detective that like investigating horror themed stuff, kind of like Kolchak the Night Stalker and all that sort of stuff. It's good. It's good.
Oh my god, Kolchak.
The deep cut for your horror fans.
Yeah.
I know they put the movies out recently on Blu-ray, and I think the series. I wouldn't mind revisiting it. It's been a long time. But one movie that I often talk about that hardly anyone's seen, it was an original HBO movie called Cast a Deadly Spell. That came out like in, I want to say, the 90s.
That sounds really familiar.
It's
I haven't seen it.
It's Fred Ward.
Sounds really familiar.
Fred Ward's in it.
Oh my god, Fred Ward. Yeah.
And he plays it's like a world where magic exists. So it's like a 50s noir detective story, but it's in a world where magic exists. So like, there are orcs walking around and like bars where like there are witches and like other people hanging out. And this guy's trying to solve a mystery in this world. They did a sequel with that was sort of kind of uninspired and had, I think they changed. It wasn't Fred Ward in the sequel, was oh god, I'm blanking on his name. Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper.
Yeah. But
Witch Hunt.
Yeah, but the first one, I never watched the second one, but the first one is really, really good. It's really cool. It's like a Sam Spade novel with like Lovecraft. I think his name is Lovecraft, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Harry Philip Lovecraft. Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah, Julianne Moore's in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
David Warner. Oh shit.
Yeah, it was an HBO movie in the 90s. Yeah, it's really good. Check it out.
I'll definitely. I'm gonna put it on the list.
I actually think I'm gonna rewatch it because it's probably been 15 years since I watched it. And
oh my god, Clancy Brown's in it. I'm sold.
Yeah, I love him.
Lee Turgeson is in it.
I just saw the new John Wick movie with Clancy Brown. Is in it?
I haven't seen John Wick.
He's in it. This is fun.
I gotta see. I'm going. I gotta see my family for Easter, and my best friend lives up in Cape Breton, not too far away from my parents. So we're both huge Wick fans. So we're just like. He's like, I'm not going to go see it until you see it. He's like, okay, we'll go see it together. I was like, sold.
Yeah, I have a little brother, big brothers, big sisters, and I took him to see it. So
nice. I hear it's amazing.
Merton Campbell directed it. The guy that did Casino Royale, which is like the best Bond movie. Mask of Zorro, Casino Royale, GoldenEye.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, this is good. It's good. Yeah, go check it out. That's a suggestion for anyone out there. Man, you and I should just do a horror podcast. I feel like we enough interesting horror movie stuff to fill hours.
I would love to. I mean, and there'd be so many people we could get. We could get
I've
We've
had
been
John.
talking about stuff like that.
I had John
Yeah,
Russo on the
John
show
Russo.
actually after meeting
Yeah,
him at the outdoor screening of the horror movies they did in
I
Halifax.
got to direct him, so that was great.
I know, that's really cool. He's an interesting guy, very opinionated.
He's a very interesting guy, very opinionated, but you know what? He was great to work with. He, and I was almost kind of like at the end of it, I was like, so John, how did I do? Kind of thing. Like almost kind of like wanted his approval, not the other way
Yeah,
around. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And he was like, you did a great job. And I was like,
Aw,
you know what?
that's
That
sweet.
I was like, yeah, he commented me on the job that I did. So I was
Oh,
like, that felt good. That was some good affirmation
yeah. So do you have
that I
anything
got
else on
back.
the
Good feedback.
horizon? Like projects coming up?
No,
No.
nothing right now. I'm right now. We're just trying to get Curse done. The color correct looks amazing. The sound is taking a little bit longer, but it's coming along. So
Where's that going to be
hopefully
out at? Is that a
that'll
theater
be on
thing?
Swearnet. That'll be on Swearnet.
Oh, I'll have to renew my Swearnet membership
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get to
yeah.
watch it.
We're trying to push for a festival run,
Oh, if you should at
because
least for Finn. Like
it so deserves it. But not my decision, unfortunately.
well, I mean, the
If it
Halifax
was up
Film
to me,
Festival is when September usually.
it was
Finn.
usually in
I feel like it's
the
September.
yeah. Well, there's HIF and then there's Finn, and then HIF is usually I think in the summer, and then Finn is usually he's usually late September, early October.
No, man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then no, I haven't I haven't done anything. I've been to Finn, and I haven't had a film in Finn in a long time. So it'd be nice to sort of kind of get back there, and you know, I don't get to network as much as I used to.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, I hope to work with you again someday, man. I had a blast last time. So
You know what, and that's the thing. Like it's not like I want to hire always the same actors, but whenever it's like I have such a fun time, it's almost like a drug. I just want to recreate it.
yeah,
And I had so much fun on Turnbuckles. It was like, can't we just do like, American Horror Story where we just get the same people coming back and they just play different characters, you know what I mean? Just so that we can keep having this same fun.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
I
that's kind
totally
of what
understand why directors do that. You know, people are like, "Why does these directors use this guy in all of his movies?" And I'm like, "Because they work well together, and the movies are all fantastic."
yeah.
Like,
And
I
that's
was
just it.
listening.
And once you find a way, once you find a great working relationship, it's almost kind of like why ruin a good thing,
Yeah, yeah. Why? I
you
mean,
know?
like every Leonardo DiCaprio Scorsese movie's great. Why didn't let them make movies? Who cares? You know?
I'm curious to see the flowers of the
Oh
the
yeah,
new one,
Killers
Killers
of
of
the Flower
the
Moon.
Flower Moon or something like that. Yeah, I'm curious to
Yeah,
see if that's how that is.
I'm
Uh,
sure it'll be great. Actually, I was listening to Mark Maron's podcast, and he had oh god, I always forget his name. The guy that did Antlers and Hostels, Black Mass. He's a cool director. But he
Oh,
did this.
Michael Flanagan?
No, I love him. Black
Yeah,
Mass
yeah.
is that one with Johnny Depp, the crime movie about the Whitey Bulger.
Oh, Black Mass. Yes,
Scott
yes, yes.
Derrickson, is
Sorry.
that his name? I think it's Scott Derrickson. But anyway, he
Okay.
just did that movie on Netflix, The Pale Blue Eye. If you haven't seen it, I highly
No, I
suggest
haven't.
it. But he
Oh,
works
okay.
a lot with Christian Bale. They do Out of the Furnace,
Gotcha.
Hostels. Yeah. So and it's talking about like they're like, why is it always the same guy? And he's like, well, it's just like you gel so well together, like, and you get a guy like Bale who can do anything. It's like, why not? Like, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And I think
fantastic.
that's the other thing too is, it's like, because like one of the other things too is like, because I know we had mentioned, um, uh, did Tyrion ever talk to you about playing the Reefer Beast?
No,
Oh, because I know that came up.
oh, I would have totally loved to do that. That would have been a
We had a
blast.
conversation. I think I'm not sure. Because you're union, right?
Yeah, but
I think that's why.
probably.
I think that's one of the reasons why we couldn't. But that doesn't make sense to me because you
Well,
were in Turnbuckles.
yeah, well, I just told them I'd don't ask, don't tell situation. I don't think they'll be listening to
Yeah, yeah,
this. So, but you
yeah,
could have
yeah,
given me a
exactly.
could have
So
given me a stage name. I'm under a mask the whole time anyway, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah, stuff like
Well,
that.
and
But no, I mean,
hey, and Mark's a big friend of mine, a big friend of mine as
yes,
well. So
exactly. I mean, well, that's just it. Like, I feel it's almost like I feel like I've entered into this family situation where it's like, it's like we all tend to know all the same people that run in the same circles and stuff like
But
that.
sometimes
And
that's
I
good
feel
because
like
you can all support each other, right? And maybe get more stuff made if we're all around the globe, right?
exactly. And I
So,
feel like it's weird because like I know like you live in Truro, Kyle lives in Truro, Mark's not too far away
mhm.
and stuff like that. And it's almost kind of like I just kind of want to go that way. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's like, how can I find a way to get closer to these guys? Because like especially like when you're doing your the film series there, the
Oh,
Truro.
right. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like every once in a while, like you'll put something on. I'm like, oh my God, I love that movie. And it's just like, it's like, I know it's only an hour away, but it's always like, God, I want to be there. I
Yeah.
so want to be there, and enjoy it with people who love these films as much as I love them.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
the
mean?
best
And
part of
it's,
that, and I always push that experience because like it's just a bar, and it's not like the
yeah,
best setup in the world, but have a few beers and just laugh with people. Like I think when we watched The Room at New Year's Eve, it was like it wasn't on New Year's Eve, but it was around New Year's Eve. It was probably the most fun. I think we did Ernest Saves Christmas, and then it was 2 weeks later we did The Room, and The Room was like our special year end like trash movie. I'm gonna try to
yeah,
pick something like that that's just so bad it's good at the end of every year.
yeah,
Probably Troll 2 this year. But it
which
was
I have
like,
not seen.
oh dude, you're in for a treat. Watch the documentary too. The documentary,
Kieran has
yeah.
told me many
If you can do
times,
a
it's like,
double
you
bill
gotta
with
watch it.
both, do it.
Yeah,
Because the documentary I watched at the Halifax Film Festival, when they used to do the midnight horror movie stuff. One
yeah.
of them was the documentary, The Best Worst Movie, which is the kid from that movie made this documentary where he gets the gang back together, and the director and everybody, all these people that were in this really low budget terrible fucking movie. Troll 2, which had nothing to do with Troll 1, and also the bad guys are goblins. The word troll is not used once in the movie. Not once. So
Yeah.
yeah. At one point, like they do a Q&A with the director who's like really Italian. And they're like, why did you somebody asked a Q&A after the movie, like, why did you call it Troll 2 when there's no trolls in it? And he's like, you don't understand anything. Next question. Like he's just like so dismissive. You understand my
How very
genius.
John Ford of him.
Yeah. Speaking of John Ford and David Lynch, did you watch The Fablemans?
I did actually. I think that's actually the ending is probably one of my favorite parts of that movie.
Yeah.
Overall, I felt like I hate I feel like an ass for saying this, but I feel like it was just a little. It was almost like a little grandiose in
Yeah.
my mind. A little, and it's like really, it's like, dude, I like everybody knows your story. I don't think you didn't think you need to make a movie about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's like we all know you're Spielberg. We all know how you kind of came up into the industry and stuff like that. And it felt like it didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah, I
like,
suppose.
and it's just like you're supposed to make me feel bad because your parents got divorced when you were a teenager. Like what?
That's pretty much everybody. I mean,
Like, yeah,
not me,
it's
but
like
most people I know's parents aren't
not
together. So.
not me either. But it's like my family's not perfect, and it's like I'm not
Hmm.
going to go make a movie about about the issues my
Dad
family
never
had.
got me a puppy.
Yeah, and it's just like really, and it's just like when it was nominated, and I was like, no, 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 no. I love Spielberg, huge Spielberg fan, but that just didn't strike well with me, that movie at all. It just felt like a little too egotistical.
Yeah, well, I think you have to have a little bit of ego to be a director. I think it's a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that makes me a bad director. I don't know.
No,
Like,
no, not at all.
if anything,
No.
I don't want to have an ego. Like, I almost kind of, the way I kind of look at every new project. Like, one of the things that I always often heard, training in martial arts was that, you know, you always look at everything as if you're a white belt.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So everything is new. Everything is a learning experience. Never to walk in thinking that everything that
Hmm.
you're a master.
Yeah.
Always come in looking as you're the student.
Yeah. There's a guy that
And
I just
I
saw a clip of online that was like, I don't know, it was a TED talk or something, but he said, here's a black belt and here's a white belt. Like, what's the hardest belt to earn? He says the white belt, because that is the first one. You need to get off your ass and do all the stuff you need to do to get to that level. And that's the hardest one, he says, because that's overcoming all of the obstacles to even begin something. Once you start it, you can progress to the rest. But it's a good, and it kind of resonated with me a little bit. Like, I obviously haven't been in a martial art, but I know enough to know how it
Mhm.
works. So, no, well, that's it, man. I guess you just got to keep plugging away at your craft and getting better and better.
And that's my goal. That's all I really want to do is just hopefully get more opportunities to keep making stuff. And I love working with actors. I love the process of filmmaking. So that that's I keep thinking, it's kind of funny. It's like every time I turn around, I ask myself, am I still on the right path? Am I still doing the thing that I was meant to do? And it's like I just I can't see myself doing anything else. You know
Awesome.
and so I still have a love for it, so it's not gone yet or anything, not even close.
Good.
But so I haven't made my clerks yet, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it and whatever's next for sure.
Well, it's like we got to do something together. I think that's what that means.
Well, I look forward to being in it then. Even more so.
Definitely.
That'd be a blast. All right, man. Well, it's great talking to you. Thanks so much for being on the show, Dave.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, let's figure out something because I'm a busy dude and you are too, but it'd be nice to just a guy that I do the X-Men podcast with, which you should anytime you want to come on as a guest. Absolutely.
I would love
I know
to.
you're a fan of
I'm super excited for 97.
We're getting there too.
Comes on.
I think right around the time we finish, because we're doing every episode. We're on season 4 right now. We just did the 2-parter with Proteus, so I think we're about a little over halfway through season 4, and 5's a shorter season. So I think by the time we finish, it'll be like a week before the new show starts. So it's pretty much right on brand.
When you guys get to 5th season, one of the things I to think about is I'm curious to what you guys think of this. But did it feel rushed? So when you guys get to that point,
well, everyone says it's terrible. So it
felt like they were just like, it was almost like they were forced to end it or something. Like it was almost like storylines were compressed, and it was just like everything just feels rushed. And you get to the end, and you're just like, what?
I feel like they thought it was over with 4. They expected it to be done with 4. And then they got 5, and then they were kind of like weren't prepared for it. There's a really good book. I don't know if I have it in here. I think it's in my library. But by the Leewalds, we had them on the show. The showrunner and his wife, who was a writer on the show, Eric and Julie Leewald. They were he ran the show, and they talked a bit about all that sort of issue. They made this really cool hardcover book that's about all the making of the X-Men animated series, which is pretty cool. It's got all kinds of details and stuff in about all that. And
I haven't. I know I bought a book recently. I think I shared it with you, but it's funny I haven't read it yet. I've only skimmed through it. But maybe that's the book. Maybe that's the same book. I don't know. I'll have to go get it and look at it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Maybe actually sit down and fucking read it.
Yeah, good luck with that. It's like me. I once heard a quote that said, "Collecting books and reading books are 2 very different hobbies."
Oh,
and
yes.
And that's my life wrapped up in a nutshell. I got a beautiful library full of books, and I probably read less than half of them. Yeah.
Boxes. I put a box. My movie collection took over my book collection. So basically, it was like, okay, one of these things has to go away for a while. So I boxed up all the books because I knew I wasn't reading anything anytime soon. So I was like, okay, those are going away until I have more room to put the books back up and stuff. But right now, the movies still take over the books. So until that happens,
I'm running into that myself right now too. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know how to. I got to stop buying movies or stop buying books, but I just can't. I always put out cool new collections and sets that I want to have. So
no. Exactly. It's just like, I mean, now there's like these new distributors coming out, like from like Arrow Video, and they're coming out with these, like Criterion style.
Yeah, for genre film, which is cool.
Oh my god! And it's just like
I have a lot of Arrow Scream and Factory Show Factory.
Yeah, Scream Factory Show Factory. The stuff that they're putting out is just gold.
Yeah, Indicator too. There's a few other ones, Severance. So those ones get pretty far back, but there's some pretty cool. They did a really nice box set called All the Haunts Be Ours, which is like a 4-hour documentary about folk horror. But then it comes with like 20 classic folk horror movies that are like some of the best ones.
Have you watched all the Journey into Darknesses yet?
Yeah. I just finished the last one. In Search of Darkness. I just finished the last one.
All 5 hours of it.
5 hours times 3 because there's 3 of them.
Times 3, I know.
They're great though. Actually, it's funny because I just printed. They emailed me because I backed them all.
Seriously?
PDF that's like all the movies, so you can check them off as you watch them.
I did not know about this.
Yeah,
I came into it very late.
They're great.
I didn't know. Yeah,
I'm actually watching the In Search of Tomorrow one now. It's all about 80s sci-fi.
Is that out now?
Oh yeah, that one came out a while ago. I think they're going to
Oh.
start kickstarting the second one sometime soon.
Oh my god, I'm so behind.
Well,
I'm so behind.
It's good, but it's like a lot of mainstream stuff, which is fine. But I know all about that stuff, so it's like, yeah, Ghostbusters is great. That's fantastic. But like, I want to know more about Saturn 3 or like one of those other weird ones that like, you know, pop up. There's one with Barry Bostwick that's like a weird action comedy thing that he was in.
I want to know about the movie Outland.
Oh, I watched it.
Connery.
Have you seen it?
I've a long time ago.
It's very good. It's like a space western. It's fantastic. Yeah.
And,
Peter Boyle in there being a real dickhead. It's great.
Love Peter Boyle.
Yeah, he's such a good. We watched The Friends of Eddie Coyle not too long ago, and man, oh man, such a good movie. He's so good in that too.
I've never heard of that one.
Oh, it's Robert Mitchum, like in the 80s.
Oh
like
shit!
Yeah, like early 80s.
My God,
he's like an aging gangster who's like trying to sell someone else who doesn't go to jail, and Peter Boyle's like another gangster, and there's just it's solid, really good movie.
See, I have a sneaky suspicion there's a lot I can even learn from you, as far as creating movie lists and stuff that I need to watch.
We can do that for sure.
All right. Well, I'll tell that means I'm coming to Tro, buddy.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks
Bye-bye.
again.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye. There it is, my conversation with Dave Mullins. A lot of fun, very interesting. I did smash that glass. I smashed the hell out of that glass, and they only had 2, so I didn't realize they only were down to 2 when I smashed that first one, which is pretty funny. But a great chat with Dave, and I can't thank him enough for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in. We are nearing our 100th episode. I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like yet. Got a few things to figure out before it happens, but I have a fun idea. I think that'll be a good one. That was sort of thrust upon me by my co-host of the X-Rated, the X-Men Animated Review Show. If you haven't checked that out yet, give it a listen. It's which me and Davin watch the X-Men Animated series and review each episode by episode. So we're closing out at the end of season 4. It's been a fun ride. It's going strong, and by the time we wrap it up, we should be done just in time for the new series, which will be airing on Disney Plus soon. So check that out. Listen to that if you need more André in your life, if this isn't enough for you. But in the meantime, check back here in 2 weeks' time, which we'll have another thrilling episode of the Graphic Histories podcast with our guest to be announced, TBA. Talk to you then. The Graphic Histories podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.